Hopefully, I think we're live now.
Well, we've probably got a lot of people out there going, "Hey, yeah, you guys are live,"
Wondering what the hell's going on.
but I don't see it live on. It's not live on YouTube,
Hmm.
or at least I'm on your channel. It doesn't look like it.
And I see a live stream and we have a live feed. So I think it might just be a little delay on our part. So let's give it a minute to catch up. If anyone's watching us live, leave a comment in the chat, please. We're not seeing anything on our end.
Oh, it does say live now. Yep, I got it.
Okay. Wow. That was
Easy.
entertaining. All
Speaker.
right. Well, I think there's a few people online now, at least us three. So that's a good sign. Technical difficulties. We are sharing live on Facebook right now. I'm going to close that window so I will just be monitoring chat on YouTube. And that said, welcome everybody to an episode of Roadside Ramblings. We got two great hosts here to join me today. So we have Mike from Drag the Globe. Welcome to have you, Mike.
Oh, awesome to be here. I'm alive.
You are alive. It's good to get that hand elevated.
We'll talk about. Oh yeah.
Oh God, I gotta turn my mic down. I think.
Yeah, no, I think you're doing good. And Matt, we have Matt from Overland Actuals. I've known Matt for many years now. Matt, welcome to the stream. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good, guys. The worst places to be is what I like to say. And man, we're live on my Instagram channel. We got some people coming in, which is cool. And sitting with you guys is always fun.
How do I turn off the
Yeah.
sound?
Sounds like we're getting some feedback here.
What's up, Instagram? Stay. You guys got a. Hello, Corinne. How are you? We're trying to figure this out. If you guys go to my story and you click the YouTube link, you'll be able to see who else I'm talking to. So we're trying to iron out some
Nice. So
figures.
you live on Instagram right now too?
Yeah,
Awesome.
really testing out that.
How do I turn off you guys on here?
That's a good question.
Okay, good. I'm glad it's not just me.
Yeah, I'm gonna see if we can mute ourselves because we are getting a little bit of feedback.
Do we get feedback if you shut your microphone off or your speakers off?
Apparently, I think
I
we're here to
did
pick
shut
this
my
up on.
speakers off.
Outside the norm, what's up? Lady Overland Radio, welcome. It's too bad you guys didn't stick around. You could have joined in.
All right. Well, I think if we just talk, normal voices into our mics, probably not going to get too much feedback. So, excuse me, if you guys do hear a lot of feedback, let us know, and we'll try to accommodate better. But that said, Overland Expo PNW was a great show, guys, right?
I had a blast.
It was absolutely incredible, to be honest with you, till about 9 o'clock this morning. And then I had to go to the hospital.
Yeah, that was. I think a lot of people are probably interested to hear about what happened there. You want to walk us through? Because I know that I was in my camper on my computer working. Deidre was on some Zoom calls, and the next thing you know, we hear some screaming going on outside. So you want to walk us a little through what happened there?
Sure. I mean, first of all, I want to thank everybody for helping out because this could have ended up far differently than it did. I'm actually on a podcast right now as opposed to dead in the woods somewhere. So, my motorcycle lift system that puts the motorcycle in the back of the truck, something was wrong with it. A piece on it broke, and I think it was probably user error from me showing somebody the day before. And in any case, what happened was the motorcycle it wouldn't go all the way in the truck, so I attempted to stick my hand, my arm, into underneath between two bars, two aluminum bars, to try to get this part that looked like it was broken out of the way. And then I kind of moved the motorcycle, and subsequently, the motorcycle and the lift system fell backwards off the truck, and the two bars came together and basically crushed my arm right above the wrist. And I started screaming because there was no way out. Like, if I was out on my own, I probably would have had to gnaw my arm off or something because there was absolutely no way of getting out of that. Like, so I screamed and everybody came running and managed to get the thing lifted up off my arm. But it's pain. It's still in a lot of pain. Believe it or not, you can see the brace on here. It's not broken. Apparently, there obviously is some kind of muscle and tissue and nerve damage, but we'll see more when I check in tomorrow. Hopefully, it doesn't swell up anymore because the alternative is surgery to, I guess, put the swelling down, or is what?
Yeah, release the swelling, make sure you don't have any nerve damage. I guess that's what the doc said. So they say, hey, do what I tell you, keep it elevated, keep it nice. Don't try to go ride your motorbike, and go from there, right?
And I don't like being an invalid, so these guys took me to the grocery store, to through. You had to fill out all my paperwork for me at the hospital. It was ugly. So luckily we had you guys here when it happened, and took forever, I guess, to get a ambulance here, but ended
Man,
up.
so they're trying to figure out if you have nerve damage. That's what your follow up is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so they don't really know because it's so swollen. And the problem is what happens is if it swells up too much, the doctor said, they would have to cut it open to relieve pressure because otherwise you lose. Like I can't really feel my fingers. I can move them with my other hand, but they don't move much
Yeah.
like this.
So the doctor said no driving the motorcycle, but climbing on top of the truck that's like 2 stories high was totally
I'm a, I'm
fine.
a, I'm a terrible listener. But
Yeah.
but you can see if I pan the camera around here, I do have my arm elevated on a pillow outside here, and we're making the best of it.
Absolutely.
So enough of that. I'm here and I'm alive and I'm speaking.
Yeah, I think one of the things, and apparently my audio is having issues. Maybe it's not, maybe it is. But I think one of the things that I noticed is that I got to know you really well today. All your paperwork, whether it's the name, the birth date, where
Yeah,
you're from. I think I know
social
more
security
information
number,
about you.
everything.
Mother's maiden name, street you grew
Yeah.
up on.
Uh, but I mean, in summary, I mean the Overland community, because we'll be talking about this a lot, I'm sure, about other things, is amazing. It's an amazing group. I got no less than, I don't know how many people have texted me and called and emailed, and word went around all the way in multiple states within minutes. And people were calling me like, Mike, you're not getting your arm amputated, are you? And I go, no, 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 it's not quite that bad, I hope. So, but there's a group of people that offered to cancel flights and everything else. So it's an amazing group, and it's one of the reasons why traveling on the road and being a nomad is such an amazing experience. It's really all about the
It's
people.
huge family
Yeah, big
community.
community, big family, and everybody cares. I can't believe how many people are just willing to drop everything they're doing, pack up, come over, and just help out at just news and hearsay, right? And like you said,
Yeah.
some people like immediately go to worst case scenario, like, oh man, he's losing an arm. And I think Matt said earlier, he's like, man, worst case scenario, you're gonna be one of the coolest stubby guys around. So I
That's
think
right.
that's just really cool to see.
And we are still at Overland Expo, and it's Monday night now.
They haven't kicked us out. They threatened it. I think we had security come by asking if we're going to stay around an extra day or two. But again, they heard the situation. They understand. So at the end of the day, everyone's taking care of each other.
I
and we're gonna
appreciate
make sure
them
we're hanging out.
turning the sprinklers on everywhere else except this spot.
Yes, that was I've noticed that as well.
So Mike's here. Mike's in one piece. Matt's here in one piece. Um, my rig behind me is, kind of iffy right now. So, it's not all just body issues, but for some reason we're having some suspension issues with our new 550 build. It's currently locked out. We have liquid spring. It's a hydraulic suspension system. And, with all modern things nowadays full of electronics, it's full of, CPUs, electronic control units, etc. And there is definitely a electronic issue in our system right now because we are stuck in normal ride mode, but we are stuck. Like it is a hard, rough ride right now. So we're trying to get that fixed and sorted. Unfortunately, Dorian, the guys at Buckstop, we joked about it earlier. We got the support team rolling
Yeah.
in midday.
Which we had to delay for our little hospital trip. And then, of course, we're laughing on the way down to the hospital, kind of, sort of laughing. Is that like, why not send the patient down in the vehicle that is the least comfortable?
Yeah, it was definitely a very jarring ride. And I mean, if you've ever been in an F-550 unloaded, that's kind of what it felt like.
Yeah.
A bucking Bronco, if you will. Which we made it there. Emergencies, things happen. We made the thing work. And at the end of the day, hopefully we'll fix our bill. We'll be out there on the road again, and we'll be having a good time very soon. I'm not worried about it. Again, the guys at Buckstops, kudos to them for coming out back to us, help us out, and we'll be back on the road. Hopefully we're all heading to Montana later this month, right?
That's hopefully. Obviously, my motorcycle riding is maybe put on hold a little bit.
Yeah. So Matt, where are you off to next? I know we're gonna dive into a little bit where we're going, but what do you got planned going forward after PNW now?
I'm gonna slowly, well, maybe not slowly, depending what, because Aaliyah and the boys are in Canada right now. So I'm gonna make my way up to northern Washington. I want to go to the Kimbo factory, go check that out, and then after that, I'll be heading to beautiful Kelowna, BC, for the BC Overland Rally, which should be a lot of fun. I was a little sad I missed the NWOR Rally, and same organization. And from what I heard from the NWOR Rally, it is absolutely a great, like, it's a community time from what I get. It's less, there are booths and vendors, but all the campers and the vendors, everybody's kind of one big kind of pile, and you get to just interact with everybody and have a good time. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. So before we dive into the PNW, because I think we all had a good time. Obviously, some things happened today, for all of us, for better or worse. I'm curious, what are things that you think you'll do differently going forward? Like, this situation was kind of one-off, but you had a lot of situations and circumstances that kind of led into it. You were talking about how you kind of noticed something during a class. For you personally, in hindsight, 2020, what would you have done differently? What do you think you'll do differently going forward? Because these are huge rigs, all of ours, right? They're big mechanical objects, and who knows what happens. And if you're out in the middle of nowhere by yourself, you kind of want to play it a little bit on the safer side than maybe when you're out with big groups. So what do you think?
Yeah, it goes to show too. Like, if you were on your own, you've got to be a lot more careful, because something like that, obviously I wasn't anticipating that occurring, but I started trying to fix it on the spot instead of calling somebody over that was around to be like, hold this for a minute, and whatever. So that you got to be more cautious for sure. And I tell people all the time, like in teaching classes and stuff, particularly when you're off-roading, off-grid, and far out in the wilderness, you've got to be careful. Both, obviously, number one priority is your health and your well-being of you, but your rig is something to think about as well. And recovery, you got to think about self-recovery. You've got to think about not going into a situation where you could potentially put you or other people with you at risk, right? So, I like to go on these little trips with small groups. I like a couple vehicles. I feel a lot safer that way.
Yeah, likewise. And I think with those groups, it's not just you bringing all the skills and the assets. You kind of pull those skills, the knowledge, the experience, everything along together, so that when different situations arise, you have a wealth of knowledge, a wealth of experience. We had some great. Sorry for the plane. We are
right at an airport.
But we heard some great stories in like the education and the teaching lessons where people are working in two-man teams or small convoys, and when things go right, you kind of pull your knowledge, pull your information, and see what you come up with and what is a great idea to get out there. So I think there's a lot to be said about what you have up here, and it's not so much about the gear. Don't get me wrong, I love the gear, but knowing what's up here and knowing how to approach and dive into those situations when they come, do the problem solving. I think that's one of the best things about overlanding and just off-roading in general.
It's one of the reasons to, I know we're going to talk about Overland Expo Pacific Northwest a little bit, but it's one of the reasons why what makes this event super unique is the classroom environment and being able to learn stuff, whether it's vehicle recovery or places to go and travel to, or learning how to podcast, or which we're learning right now. And
Figuring it out.
so there's a lot that going on. There's a lot of safety classes, learning, because I tell people all the time, it's one thing to carry gear, but you need to know how to use it. And the
Yes.
time to learn how to use gear is not when you're in the woods, or your medical kit is the first time you're opening it isn't when something happens. You need to know what's in there.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, like today, your incident, I came out and I was carrying an IFAK because I heard screaming. I had no idea what was going on. So it's like, the main thing I'm thinking about is like major bodily trauma. Let's stop that. I go out there, I assess. Okay, well, this is not as bad as it could have been. Let's go get Matt. We dragged Matt out of the Kimbo, and I know he is a lot of first responder training and fire and everything. And he had a much bigger med kit. So when Matt walked in, what did you think this morning when Deidre came knocking on your door? And I know you're in your skivvies. What was going through your head?
Yeah, I was just kind of rolling out of bed. I was on a call at the time, and I heard her knock, and then I was like, oh, just come say hi, or seeing what's going on or whatever, because I was parked quite a bit of ways. And then I heard the second knock, and then I heard her say, Matt, we need you. And I was like, uh-oh, this sounds a little bit more than a cordially hello. So I opened the door, and she's like, somebody broke their arm. And I was like, oh, shoot, okay. So I grabbed my med kit, which, like you said, like my med kit is a bigger one that I've tailor-made to myself. And what I often try to tell people is, just because it looks like a cool thing to have in your med kit, if you don't know how to use it, it's going to do more harm to be in there than to not be in there. And it's everything in my med kit I know how to use. I've been trained how to use it. There's everything from Band-Aids to bleed control to sprains, stuff like that. So yeah, I've had a lot of training. So when, I try to just stay calm and figure out and assess, and yeah. So when I saw your arm, and you told me what happened, I was like, if it's not broken, it's a miracle. But this definitely should be.
I remember
checked
somebody
out.
yelling, "There's no blood. It's not bleeding." That part I remember.
Which is good, especially on your arm. Like if it's internal, different story. But on the arm. Like I think that the doctor said, it basically just smushed everything, like a sandwich and a wrapper getting stepped on, kind of for visual effect. But yeah, I was glad to see that you were relatively okay, responsive, and then when you told me what happened, I was like, geez, that could have been bad, especially when it comes to hydraulic pinch points.
Yeah, it was sick. Probably it was like the motorcycle's close to 400 pounds, and then you had to lift and stuff. It's probably 500 to 600 pounds easy, and it was all basically. It was like, well, somebody called it. I think it was you called it a bump stop. My arm was a rubber bump stop, and then of course everybody came running over, and nobody knew what to do. So I was like, and obviously I was in so much pain, and I didn't know either. And I was like, lift it, or push it, or something.
Yeah,
and of
just
course,
get it off.
Of course, the first thing to have is everybody pushed it, and it was getting tighter. So okay, I went the other way.
Yeah. I mean, and that's it. Like in the moment, I mean, that took all of 30 seconds, right?
Yeah.
For that to go on. And sometimes you need to assess it. You need to make very quick decisions and calls. And I mean, that decision, the initial one, was not the right one, but fortunately it wasn't catastrophic, right? And again, you were on solid bars that were kind of sandwiching you. If that was like just quarter-inch plate or 3/16 plate that your arm was sandwiched between, it'd be a different conversation.
I would have chopped my hand off easy.
Yeah.
And I don't know what would have happened if I was here by myself, because there was no way I could get my arm out of that.
Yeah.
And I couldn't reach anything. So I just don't know. I mean, eventually you're going to pass out from the pain, or something's going to happen. So
were you up on the platform, or are you
I was up
standing on
in the
ground?
truck.
You were up in the truck?
Yeah, so what happened was I tried to put my arm between two bars, because the way that this thing works, it slides on basically like two train tracks. So I put my hand through the two train tracks, and then I tried to push it out of the way farther to get more access to it, and it slid, and then it fell, and it cantilevers, it turns, and then the entire weight of the motorcycle came down and started shooting out of the truck, basically, with my arm between the two things.
The amount of
huge amounts of force,
but the amount of things that could have happened, just especially because it is on a moving track, Like if that would have squished and then started to move backwards or anything, like there's so many variables that could have gone wrong.
Yeah.
So it's actually amazing that that was the, that's the extent of it. Because
Yeah, I know. I was sure it was broken, and it's not. So, and ironically, of course, one of my med kits is hanging in the garage, which I could never have reached, but it was up there, and I'm not sure what, I went through my kit same way you did and put things that I'm not medically trained that well. So I probably have a lot of different things. There's certain things that I just took out because I'm like,
yeah,
I don't know how to use them. I did leave stuff in. I don't necessarily know how to use because there may be somebody on the scene that does. But I added, just knowing myself, I added like boatloads of Band-Aids and things in there because I'm always cutting
Oh
myself.
yeah, we all need a boo-boo kit. I
Yeah.
think people
Yep.
forget about that. Band-Aids,
Yeah.
Backcitration, whatever, things to, clean out the wounds. Sutures are great. I'm a sucker, and I grew up kind of in farmland.
Yeah.
I like the little staple guns.
Yep.
A lot of doctors might cringe at
Yeah.
that, but they
Glue.
work great if you actually need it in the time. And
yeah, man.
Oh, yeah, super glue, all sorts of things.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
I grew up in the country, same thing on a farm, and we would hurt ourselves on a daily basis.
Well, I think kudos to Mike. He has a really good bone density. All the doctors were
That's what they
extremely
said.
impressed. So I don't know, what that says about him. I've always been told I'm hard-headed. I'm guessing he probably is too, due to that good bone density there. So big shout out there.
Yeah.
Whatever you're doing, keep doing
It's
it.
probably was in the right place because it's right, sort of on the lower part of my arm, and I guess the bone is fairly thick there.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah. So speaking of training, obviously we are at a premier overland off-road event where there's a lot of training offered here. So let's dive into Overland Expo PNW. You are a seasoned vet. I think you've been to all of them so far. This is our second PNW. And Matt, is this your first PNW?
This is my first one, man.
Nice.
So as a first PNW,
But you've been to many other ones.
Oh,
First
I-
Overland Expo.
I didn't know what overlanding was as of March 2023.
Yeah.
I discovered overlanding, and Aaliyah was in the kitchen, and as I discovered what it was, I was like, hey, you want to get a Jeep and a rooftop tent and go cruise around? She was like, okay. We had never been camping until we got to our first spot in Utah after hitting the road from Canada.
Wow.
West was my first one. This is my first one, and I love it. It's awesome.
We, by the way, still don't know what the word overlanding means because to me it's camping.
Yeah.
Or outdoor activities, whatever.
Yeah.
Base camping, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Something. I mean, and that could be a bicycle, by the way. Just some vehicle.
Just cruising overland.
You're overlanding. You're crossing it, and
Yep.
I guess if you're on a boat, probably the same things apply if you're out at sea, right? I've never been out at sea really for long stints, but if I'm going to be 1, 2, 3 months at sea, I'm probably going to bring a lot of similar gear.
Yep.
Maybe instead of a winch, I'll have an anchor. That seems to make
Yeah.
sense
Yeah.
to me, but you never know.
And you're loosely. I would define overlanding as, you're under your own power, right? Whether it's 2 wheels, 4 wheels, 6 wheels, in my case, bicycle we mentioned, or whatever your mode of transport is. Could be a boat. But you are in control of it more. So it's as opposed to flying on an airplane or taking a train
Yeah.
or whatever.
Mhm.
So you got to be self-supporting.
Yeah, so I'm curious, Matt. So the off-roading, overlanding, all of that is very new to you. Like you said, 2023, you kind of got a Jeep and hit the road. And I met you at King of the Hammers this past year, 2023.
No,
and-
2024.
Or 2024, yeah, sorry. King of the Hammers. And you'd been relatively new, and you're going to some premier events. And you were just in this Jeep with a rooftop tent on it, and he said he had 2 kids and a wife traveling with him. No one believed him because this Jeep was stuffed full. He's a big guy. And there was no way 3 other people fit in this Jeep with him. Lo and behold, we met his family, a few
They're
weeks
real.
later. They're actually real. It wasn't made up. But I mean, he was just throwing himself fully immersed into the community and the environment. So the Overland Expos, I feel like they're that next step in education and training. Did you get a chance to go around and partake in any of the trainings and discussions that were going on?
I really wanted to, but I was in the geyser shower booth the whole time, so I'm actually, in the booth. The cool thing for the expos for me is meeting people that I've connected with online since last year, And then, I met Teddy from Unwinding Roads. We had been talking for a while. Met him at the happy hour, which was super cool, and his family. A bunch of other people. At West, I met the Hourless Life family, which was really cool. Just meeting people that you connect with. Even the first day I was here, I was walking around and again, just meeting people like, hey, coming up to me, or I go up to them, and it was like, yeah, we've had all these conversations, but now you're putting a face to the account, so to speak, which to me has been really cool. And it sucks because I love training. Like I love just learning information because I don't know a lot of stuff. So to me, getting training and information and stuff, like especially from guys like you, Mike, you have driven the globe and done some cool stuff, and you have this plethora of knowledge that anybody who comes to these expos and has a chance to go, because I believe to go sit in that, it's free for the attendees.
Yep.
Which is, I mean, the people that are talking are in the subject they're talking about are so knowledgeable, or else they wouldn't be there. And that's one disappointing, because all the presentations are during show hours, so I don't get to go and sit in on those, which I wish I could. But I think that's one of the coolest things about the expo. Gidgets and gadgets are cool, as you would say, but sitting in and learning, like you said, when you watch them flip over a 60 series Land Rover or whatever it was, and I think you were doing that class, like it's unreal. They have driving courses, they have recovery courses. Deidre went to the women's course, which was, showing women like, hey, this isn't a sex-based activity. Like women, hold my coffee. She was at West. She is a double amputee, and she's ripping around in a Tacoma with her, like, just
She's amazing. Like I got to hang out with her.
what an
West, and
absolute
she's super cool.
badass gangster. Like, so stuff like that is really cool, that you see all these people and you see all these different kind of rigs and what people actually use. And I love going in the camping area. The booths are cool, but it's a lot of show and shine and pavement, drivers. You go in the camping area and see what people are using and putting to use. That's what I think is super cool.
Yeah, and it's like for us, same thing. We've been doing the vendor shows for like the last 6 shows, I think, in a row. And the same thing, we never got a chance to get around. And this show, we actually did the showcase in DIY. Shout out to Azure for having us there. And we actually had the chance to go to some of the trainings. And we did a lot of the creator area classes, as I'm trying to do more around content creation myself. And it was just so great to see what other people that are doing similar things to what you're doing in their approach. Everyone has a different approach. And that doesn't just apply to the content creation side, it applies to overlanding. Like everyone has a perfect vehicle for them. Everyone has a different style of getting out, whether they're weekend warriors or they're doing, epic 3-year trips, doing the Pan American. You get to see those perspectives, and one, super inspiring, right? Just to see what's happening out there. But then you're kind of like planting the seed of ideas and routes. And as Deidre said earlier, and I said as well, it's also very validating that you're kind of on the right track. Because I think that's it. It's great to learn, it's great to get out there, it's great to see it, from other people. But I think it's even more important to take what you have, get out there and do it, find those limitations, take what you learned and the gear or the gadgets that you might need, add that as you need it, right? But usually it's I had a friend of mine, I don't know if I agree with this, but it was a really good approach, is with the recovery gear, he usually has to need it, 2 or 3 times before he buys it.
Yep.
Because there's a lot of things you could do with a shovel, and just a tow strap, right? And it's when you're on the beach or something, a set of mat tracks or traction boards, could be nice. But gosh, a rug works really well on the sand.
I was about to say, I used that when I went through the Sahara. I used a rug. I mean, big shout out to Azure O'Neill, who was the programming director here at Overland Expo, because she puts together a team of people that are super experienced in what they're talking about. So you've got experts on all these panels or in classes, teaching off-road, teaching recovery, cooking on the road, all sorts of different stuff. So that's a big element of this. To touch on what you were saying, it is overwhelming, these shows, because they're so busy. So you get stuck in a vendor booth In West, I was in the Tempo Tusk booth. That was the same concept. I couldn't get anywhere barely, other than the classes that I was actually teaching. So it's hard because it's so much. It's brain overload. But what you mentioned, a lot of this obviously is about gadgets and gadgets and stuff on the field, the vendor showcase. All of it could be possibly good for you. You don't need it until you go out and try it. Everybody has a different game plan. Everybody has different needs. I tell people, bring what you got. If it's a Subaru with bald tires, that's what you go with. And you learn. This is not my first rodeo with a truck. I mean, in my overlanding quote life, I don't know, I probably had 25 vehicles. So it just, and every one of them has deficiencies and positives and negatives. It's just the way it is.
Yeah. And then also, like, it's a lot that goes on during the day. There's a lot going on, as you said. If you guys come to these events, hang out later in the evening. There's so many after-hour events and parties and whatnot, and it's a great opportunity to get up, hands-on. You see someone that maybe it's from social media, as people come up to talk to you, or maybe it's just some random person that happens to be standing next to you in line. Start a conversation. You never know who you're going to meet and who you're going to get the chance to talk to. I mean, I ran into you at East when this truck was like 2 weeks on the road.
And that was a joke, or I guess it was the creator thing there.
Yeah, you were the creator thing, and I just like stood outside the truck and I looked at this beautiful motorcycle ramp. Little did I know I was going to be driving into the hospital.
Yeah, because of it. Very ironic.
Very ironic, but I thought it was the coolest thing ever. And I didn't even talk to the guy because he was so busy. And I was just sitting there drooling, and I'm like, wow, that is like a 5-year down the road plan for us, but great. Next thing you know, we're hanging out at West around a fire pit at the end of the event, catching up, and then finally here we get to actually sit down and have some legit conversations after the show. Come to find out, we talked about flipping over the Land Rover, I guess it was, back in 2012, where you self-ride it with a winch and pulley system, and I got to learn how to reset and spool a winch appropriately so it doesn't kind of turn into a rat's nest. Well, this guy was teaching the class while I was there, so it's like I have connections to this guy that go back to 2012. I didn't even know
so
it.
Weird. Yeah, and I think you touched on it too. It's like one of the main, at this point, the main reason I come to these kind of events is the networking, because there's just so many people. For me, it's a reunion. I've been doing it so many years, and there's so many people I know, and just coming to get to see them, once or twice or a couple times a year. But then meeting new people, I make it a point to always go to all the happy hours, to try to get to all the vendor parties, the official parties, to go hit the DIY section and the showcase vehicles and the creator areas, and then just going around. It was one of the reasons I teach as well, as you meet a lot of people through the classrooms, so it's a great opportunity. And because there's always somebody doing something better, or there's always somebody when you think you are the coolest kid on the block kind of thing, boom, along comes Patty Upton, and we all look at her and go, here's a woman and her husband that went across the world with a Jeep that you don't really even want to drive across this parking lot. At least none of us do with the trucks that we've got. You know what I mean? Like,
It'll beat you up.
It's crazy.
Yeah, and she's a Guinness World Record holder for the things she's done, life or death situations, problems that the average person would never even think of being a problem in their life. They had to figure out a solution and overcome by themselves in the middle of nowhere with no support whatsoever. It is absolutely insane. I think back to that story as well. If you ever come to these events and you see a lot of the showcase videos, you'll see this guy over here, Mike, crying in some of those videos because the story is so emotional, and the feeling of being there, the things resonate with all of us to some extent and some level. And because Mike's seen more than most, I think it hits up even stronger. And there's
because I've always been, not that I'm anti gadgets and gadgets, but I've always taken the approach that less is more oftentimes. I went through a phase where I had a Jeep JK and a Jeep JL, and they were both AEV setups, and lift kits, and all the stuff, right? But when you change one thing, I'm not telling you guys anything you don't know. You change one thing, and suddenly there's implications to other things, right? And it goes right on down the road. And next thing you know, at the end of the day, you spend a lot of money, you've changed stuff, and it doesn't always improve the vehicle or your camp setup or even your quality of life, honestly.
Yeah.
So although I got to say, I'm pretty happy that I can get to go lay down in my bed because the Patty Upton Jeep, boy, I tell you, that does not look like camping in the Darien Gap would be fun.
So their setup was just a ground tent, or did they have a rooftop tent on that thing?
My understanding is it just had like a ground tent, I think. I don't know. I mean, they had, you got to remember, this was in the 80s. They didn't have cell phones. They didn't have, GPS. They didn't have, I mean, they're out. It took them years, and they're just no winch like we think of a winch.
Yeah.
It was a crank winch. I think she described it in one of her things that it was like they moved 3 feet in a day and a half.
That's crazy.
I mean, none of us, I don't
That's
think, can even
wild.
comprehend that really.
No,
No.
it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, so
It's
I give her kudos. I mean, and she's not the only one. There's a lot of other people, Roseanne and Jonathan, that founded Overland Expo back in the day. I remember going to the early ones. Like I think I missed the first 2, and I was at the third one. I think it was a much smaller crowd, and there were just mostly world travelers or people that everybody would gather in a field that just came out of the woods somewhere for the last 4 years. Some real badasses.
Yes, absolutely. I love it. And that was my experience in 2012, right? Same kind of thing. People just came from all over the world. That was the first time I saw Unimogs, and I was just like, what is that? And I think you had a Unimog at the time as well. And I was just blown away that this is something that's possible. Because I looked at it in the first thing, that's a tractor with a house on the back. Just
Basically.
like a giant tractor. And I was like, but tractors go a lot of places and a lot of things. Again, I spent a lot of time working and driving tractors as a kid, so I totally knew the capabilities. If we could cycle one of these rigs behind us, it'd be great to have a tractor pull us out, and that's usually what we have to do.
That's what you need. Yeah.
So seeing an expedition rig that is essentially a tractor gets you where you need to go is just opened up this whole new mind process. And again, I'm in this big F550 now. That was kind of inspired by those big rigs I saw then. You bring the comfort, you bring the tools, you bring the skill sets, and we grew into it. We were driving around, I was telling you earlier today, we were overlanding in a Suzuki Forenza front wheel drive.
It's ideal.
Like 8 years.
Perfect. Exactly what you need.
Exactly.
Ground tent, we had a little.
It's what you had.
Ground tent.
Yeah.
It's what we had. We had a water jug, a little Coleman stove, and we were out like every other weekend. Just going into BLM land, national forest, and exploring. And it wasn't until my in-laws were just like too worried about us being back out there in this little car when they're like, here, take our Dodge Durango, at least it has all-wheel drive, and that should help you a little bit more.
That's so
Well, that's the cool thing about the expo too, is other than the gadgets and gadgets, is the thing that like really stands out and you notice is the ingenuity that people have to create their systems, to create their setups. Like Missy's husband, he had the back of his Jeep open, and I just saw the little water pump that was on the stick. And when you look at people's stuff, you're like, man, I never thought that would be an option. And they figure it out because they're like, well, I need it.
Yeah.
I need to use it. How can I integrate it? And the other thing is, how can I do it without dropping $1,500 on something that I can create the exact same thing as?
Because, and that's another thing I failed to mention, in some of the stuff going on. I always take a walk around I call it the Gen Pop area. And you go out into camping, right? Because that's where a lot of the cool rigs are, and a lot of the ideas that people have DIY'd and come up with. And so, and I'm not knocking any of the vendors and some of the expensive stuff, because look, let's face it, I would rather buy something expensive that works with modern technology today than to try to go around the world in Patty Upton's Jeep, as an example. You know what I mean? I'm okay with that.
Yes, 100%.
Right? Because we've advanced and we've gotten to that level. And by the way, it wouldn't mean that your trip is going to be necessarily any easier.
No.
Because there's certainly, it wasn't that many years ago that I was last in Africa. And I mean, there are roads. I just got done watching Itchy Boots Norley do her motorcycle across Africa.
And she is insane, by the way.
And but that route that she took, particularly through West Africa and then down in Angola and then across, is pretty much the same route I took with Land Rovers. And those roads are like, I just laugh. It's like I had friends down in Baja that would ask me all the time, how's the road? How's the dirt road that you live on, down in the East Cape? And I go, It's all perspective. In my opinion, this is a super highway
Mhm.
because I've seen roads in Africa that you literally have to look around because you could lose the road. It's so bad.
Yeah.
You can't even tell where you're going. So, just because you have the modern technology doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be easier.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious. I mean, I want to talk about tech and gear because I love gear and gadgets. But, as for just skills that you think are something that you could practice and work on now that you could apply tomorrow, if we're going out camping, what do you think are some good skills? And Matt, I want you to, chime in on this as well. But, I guess, yeah, Matt, why don't you start? You're the newest. What have been the essential skills for you that you think have really helped you get out there?
My biggest skill that is the first and foremost to me, and just because of my background and the things that I've seen, is your first aid and your preparedness for that. That's my first and
I
foremost.
agree with that.
And
We're
it's
not
just,
biased at all, right?
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
for me, like with, I have Wilder, I have Fox, and I have Aaliyah. So my biggest thing is making sure that they're okay and we never do anything that, jeopardizes that. And the first step in the first line of defense for that, for me, is my first aid knowledge and what to do in an event. Because let's face it, I'm not always camping with people. We do a lot of solo camping. We get out on our own. And there's been, I've been stung by a scorpion, and that's something that I never really even considered. And it was Wilder, my 6-year-old, who was like, "Hey, Dad, if you get stung by a scorpion, you kill the scorpion and rub the back of the scorpion on the sting mark, because the scorpion has its anti-venom on its back because when it stings itself." And I was like, "That's wild. I had no idea about that." But
Somebody told me that.
yeah, he learned it on Adventure Boys. And so, the amount of boo-boos and scrapes and scratches we get because we're outside 90% of the time is important. But when something bad happens, perfect example today, it's having my understanding of being comfortable knowing that I can handle it, because I can cook food. My Tembo Tusk will cook absolutely anything. Water is pretty simple. We have our Grail filters and a bed to sleep on and a fridge to keep our food cold. And then when we started, I didn't have the winch. I didn't have, the steel bumper. I didn't have recovery stuff. As I didn't have air down tools and stuff like that. And so I was conscious about what I had and what I could do. So I made sure to, like, where I was going, I was like, okay, can I get there or can I not get there? Am I going to get in trouble? Am I going to get myself in a little sticky situation? So I'm conscious of what I have, and I just make sure that I go places and do things within my realm of knowledge, which is still very new. I did, 4x4ing with my 2015 Jeep and stuff, but with big groups and nothing too crazy. So for me, I just try to remember what my knowledge is and where I stand on my abilities, and I make sure not to push those too far as much as sometimes I accidentally do. But for me, it's my first aid and then understanding what gear I have and what my capabilities are.
Yeah. Yeah. What about you, Mike?
Well, what Matt said, I noticed he started with, and which is why I always tell people, the comfort items. So the med kit is it's safety, right? But then you mentioned water, and you mentioned food,
Yep.
and you mentioned your bed. Because at the end of the day, if you are not comfortable and you're not happy, and to everybody that means something different, you're not going to do it, right? You're gonna end up not enjoying this, not enjoying your adventure, not enjoying the outdoors, and maybe never doing it again.
Yeah.
So those are really important. And they do come, I think, before the steel bumper and the
Yep.
winch and the big tires and whatever. Those things are learning curve things. So as you do more exploration, you want to get farther out there,
Yes.
then you might need more gear to get you to those places.
Yes.
But in the beginning, you could have, like we talked about, a two-wheel drive car, and that might be sufficient for a long time.
Yeah. You know who I think has that comfort stuff figured out? It's the RV truck camper world, right? We have a lot of truck camper followers on our channel. We have a
Yeah.
truck camper. And we went that way because right out of the box, you put this thing on the back of your truck, you slide it in, or a tow behind even.
Yep.
And you have all the creature comforts,
Yep.
and like they're overlanders. They may not call themselves that, but they're traveling. Most of
Sure.
these people I meet full time on the road, and yeah, they're on paved road or maybe the occasional dirt trail, but that's where all that gear we just talked about, that's what gets you further off the paved
Hmm.
road and away from it, right? But they figured that out very early on, and I talk to them all the time to get tips for the comfort items because they've been doing it for generations too.
Because they're not going to make it on the road long term either if they're not comfortable, even if you're on paved roads and staying in campgrounds.
Yeah, yeah,
Right after a while, you
exactly.
just be like, "This is misery."
Yeah, so and I think that's one of the fun things that I see, is like pull from all these different groups because at the end of the day, we're all on the road. I meet people that are in built out Tacoma go fast rigs, and then people with like a big Class A, and I mean they're all out there doing the thing. We run into them in Baja. You're talking about a situation where you ran into someone in a giant Class A
Yep.
on the
On the beach
beaches of Baja.
in the sand in the arroyo that I was in. This is a big
Were they
40-foot
stuck?
Class A. Oh yeah, they got stuck immediately. So it's how I met them, and we went from there. We got them dug out, but you get a combination of truck campers and Class A's and van lifers and sprinter vans and overland rigs like mine and Jeeps and Land Rovers and I mean you name it, and they're all perfectly good vehicles.
Yeah.
And
All after the same thing.
yep,
Yep.
That's it.
Yep.
We're all
Goal
after the
is the same.
freedom and the experience.
Absolutely. So like I think maybe you and I were talking. Um, this truck is a big truck. It's weighs 30,000 pounds, and it'll do pretty well for based on my travel experience in the Americas. But I get to Africa, I may have to switch out to something that's much smaller because yeah, it just can't take the bridge system and the infrastructure just doesn't going to support it. I mean, I could probably do it, but I would have to stick to more civilized urban areas. I couldn't do the track that Itchy Boots is doing right now with this truck. There's no way. There's absolutely no way
Yeah.
because it's not going to get on a kayak like the motorcycle does.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And then, like, for me personally, getting back to the point of skills, what are the things we work on now? Like, one of the things I'm fascinated with and I continue to prove on is like navigation and route planning. I think there's a lot as we're traveling all over the US, North America, Baja, we're going into BC later this year. And a lot of it's like starting with like Google Earth and looking for like cool spots first, like what looks cool. And then from there, like, what does the road to get there look like? What is the conditions? And we have bigger rigs, so now I have to take in a whole other level of planning into it. Is there a lot of overhang, a lot of brush? Like, how narrow are the roads? All that stuff goes into it. But even when we're not two-wheel drive Forenza, we're kind of looking around like, is that just nothing but sand? Like, that's a no-go.
Yeah.
Like,
Is it a shelf road that it's got 2-foot drops? It's like
exactly. It's like navigation, route planning. It's one of those things that I think it's kind of fun. One,
Yeah.
it's kind of like a big puzzle. You get to find like little golden Easter eggs out there in the world. But then also it's something that's very essential. And it's not one of the things I'll say that I learned, and I was having a conversation actually with Jason from Primal Outdoors. They're doing this Oregon bend to the Alvord and like a big loop. And one of the things that you need to consider too is alternative routes.
Yep.
Because while it might look good on a map and it might look good, the day of, if a storm comes through or something, the conditions can completely change. It's always good to have a plan B and have an alternative route in mind.
And I'd have a plan C and a D too.
Yep.
But like the nice thing about technology now is we have Google Earth, we have Gaia, we have iOverlander, we have. I mean, there's a whole mess of set of tools. I use all sorts of tools to look at stuff, and I don't really rely on any one of them because it's always some variation. And you're looking at it from a perspective of what am I interested in doing, and what am I willing to do, and how much am I willing to risk my house, and what's the capability of my truck and my experience level.
Yeah, totally. Sweet. So that's skills. Let's can we talk a little about gadgets and gizmos and gear?
Sure.
Because there was a lot here at the expo. So I'm curious. I guess why don't we just start? Like, what are some of the top 3 items you guys saw at the expo this weekend?
Man, it's hard because there's so much cool stuff. Like so here's something that I got this weekend was I got the the air down pressure valves from Tire Right, which I was super stoked to get because my current tool for that was just a valve stem remover with a little baggie with about 20 extra valve stems. Um,
Yep.
and
Yep.
yeah, right.
Yep.
Because
You got a tire plug kit on board too.
I got a tire plug
Good.
kit on board, and so yeah, so I got that, and then I got they have a new hose that was really cool. So the hose I have now is the big accordion yellow one. This one's kind of like a fiber, so it's more bendable, it's more packable. So I thought that was pretty cool. One of my favorite things that is at the expo is the Insta Privy. It's a backpack-sized outdoor toilet with a little tent that goes on it, and I mean, that's what we use, and I think that's the cat's meow.
Yeah, I saw it. That's super cool.
Like compact toilet solution. You got a little tent that kind of sits on you. That's two things that I really liked. The tripod torch is another one that I really like because it's for us when you're sitting somewhere and you can't have fires. The way that he made that one is the flames come out, so it's not your typical box that it comes up. It's comes out so we could have it in the middle and we would all be getting the heat from it and stuff like that. Like that's the stuff that I find really cool. The things that make my adventure more convenient. Like you were looking at the vessel coffee grinder and the pour over. It comes with a filter that isn't your paper filter that you got to throw out. I'm like, that's fantastic because it's hard to always find a filter that fits in them. So little things like that, like obviously there's all sorts of suspension and all the big stuff, but for me the little gadgets and gadgets I like are the ones that are small and compact, are going to make my life easier, going to make Aaliyah's life easier, and are just nice little things that aren't going to destroy the bank but are going to help our journey be a little bit more comfortable.
Yeah, back to those creature comforts. I think for me, I bought three things. So that's why I said three. The first one I was most excited about was Pack Raft. So Kokopelli was here, based out of Denver, and I just heard.
And I
things
walked
about
by
it.
while you were doing that.
Yeah, totally. And like Deidre and I have been talking about this for a while because we've spent 10, almost 11 months on the road full time now, and beautiful country everywhere, and we're always going by beautiful rivers and lakes. And gosh, we never get out there. I might go in and swim. No paddleboards. They do have paddleboards, inflatable paddleboards.
What is it?
But we did a inflatable pack raft, which is just a little raft. It's the one we got, I believe, was like the Recon or something. So it's rated for like rapids 1 through 4 or something. And again, I don't even know that skill yet, but I wanted something to grow into. And we're heading up to BC. We're gonna go to Banff, and I just wanted something to get out on the lakes and experience it from that vantage point. Because I mean, again, like places like Moab, it's my second home. And we see all these rivers down there. You see all these people on these overlooks. It's just super crowded, but there's no one on the water. So I'm like, what if we get down on the water and just have a whole new vantage and perspective?
Dude, you have to go to Moraine Lake with that thing.
Oh yeah, we will.
Oh,
Definitely.
man.
Lake Louise, like so many good things. So like the Pack Raft, Kokopelli, and there's a lot of good companies, obviously. But if pack sounds small, takes up very little space. It weighs like 12 pounds or something.
Oh, wow.
And it just like checked a lot of boxes for us. So I was really excited about that. And then two, I mean, I'm sitting on it. So we just got some chairs and a table from Ironman 4x4. And there's a lot of great companies that make chairs and tables. We all have our own.
Nice too.
But
Actually,
I wanted
no, I
one
have
that was
yours
like
right now.
matched the height, because we have like an REI table. We have like other like branded chairs, and none of them kind of fit perfectly. And the cool thing they do is their table's slightly adjustable on height, and it just like dialed it in. So I have a legit desk set up now, and it folds down to like hardly anything. So I like the Ironman 4x4 guys as well, and they just make some really good, useful products. Shop in a lot of ways, from suspension to chairs. And then three, actually what Matt touched on, the vertical torch. Yeah, you can walk away. Yeah, we got the tripod torch. So we were stoked. We've been looking for, and this is a us problem, because we have a truck camper and we have our propane tanks inside, and they're all regulated, so it's LP, low pressure.
That's right.
Right. It's not the unregulated propane, which most fireboxes out there
Run on
that unregulated propane, the high pressure, if you will. And I didn't want to. Well, one, now our truck's way too tall. We have to get a step stool out to pull out the propane tanks. It was just one of those things that I didn't want to have to pull it out, set it up every time. You can unplug mine, by the way, the big one, but pull it out, set up every time. So we just hadn't bought a fire pit yet, and we were talking to the gentleman that sells that, tripod torch, and they have some probably better name for it than what we're calling it. But they said, hey, no problem. It'll run right off your LP and get plenty of output. So I'm stoked to use that.
Well, that's what it is. Tripod torch.
Tripod Torch is the company. Okay. Yeah, so we got that and like super stoked. So that was 3 items we got at the show that are going to make our quality of life better. And also help us explore more, right?
Yep.
But besides that, I mean, there's so many other cool gizmos and gadgets and gadgets. So what did you see, Mike?
So I actually didn't buy any gadgets here, believe it or not. However, for those of you guys out there that are listening and maybe not have attended an Overland Expo, there is stuff ranging from comfort products to obviously off-road gear setups for trucks, tires, cooking gear. GoPro was here. I'm sponsored by Shielmon Seats. So the seating. There's just geyser. There's different shower systems. There's just so much stuff to look at, and you can spend hours. Here. You could spend hours walking up and down the aisles, and I agree. I like the little, and some of the stuff is like, they're small mom and pop kind of businesses that have created a niche product that we've all probably figured like, wow, this is something I could use.
Yeah, we all have a Scuttle, for example, all 3 of us right here.
Yeah, shout out to Jerry, who's probably on a plane right now he's going to Africa for a month. And but we all have a Tempo Toscano, which I'm always talking about.
Always.
And I cook on it 95% of the time. So yeah, I mean that's just something that I developed. A good example of that product is I figured out that on the road, water is one of the toughest commodities to come by, right? And what uses the most water? Well, washing dishes. So the Scuttle replaces pots and pans and stuff, and I found that I can use way less water and save the water for me, showering and drinking and whatnot. So, that's a product that fills that niche for me. So, I mean, there's a lot of those kinds of things. Goose gear, AT Overland. There's obviously, if you are looking to get trailers or, truck campers or rooftop tents, this is the place to go. So I think this, a lot of people maybe aren't aware of how many different vendors there are.
There's like over 340 vendors, I think,
Yeah.
at this particular show.
I think so, yeah. And Flagstaff's like 450 or something.
Yeah, it's absolutely wild, but a great place to get ideas. And I mean, even myself, so like on the way out here, unfortunately, we had a situation where I had my backpack full of gear stolen. So it was like $4,000 of gear. So I took the opportunity while I was here to kind of walk around and scout, like, what am I going to replace that gear with? I didn't buy anything, I'm still trying to hope insurance is going to cover something. Probably not.
Let's hope. Cross your fingers.
Yeah, but some really cool stuff. And one of the things I think you mentioned there's a little what is that, water filtration system grill?
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Their new titanium cup one. I'm like, that's a perfect
Candy had one of those.
Yeah, it looks amazing. And when I had my original cat at MSR, whatever crap, I loved it. But now since all the stuff's missing and I get to replace it, I get an upgrade to the latest and greatest, and check out all the cool gizmos, get to gadgets. So I'm excited to see what I replace that with, and what we end up going forward, because I do love having that backpacking bag again. It gets us out doing more, exploring from a different perspective. But then it's also like one of those, it's kind of like a go bag. Like if we broke down and we need to start hiking or get on our mountain bikes, like those bags are also kitted out so that we could travel hundreds of miles, many days, and be reliant, and again gives us a little bit more insurance as we're traveling around, which it's a 2-for-1 for us. So that's what we loved about it. And unfortunately, or fortunately, it's going to get upgraded and modified now.
And that's what's nice about having the vendors here. The vendors definitely attract the people, right? They get the people to attend the show because we're all looking at cool stuff, and those feed into all of these other things that we've talked about. So without the vendors, it certainly wouldn't be the same show, right?
No, of course. And the cool thing with the vendors is that you get to see the new latest and greatest. Like Scout had that new pop-up camper that I was
Mm.
super excited
Yeah.
to take a look at
Yeah.
because now it's a mid-sized truck
Yeah.
camper, and a lot of other companies, this is where they premiere their new
Yep.
things that they just came
Mhm.
out with. So you get to see, innovation in the camping world, and you get to also see innovation in the vendor booth
Yep.
world and see what they're coming out with and new products and stuff like that. Like the Grail, their titanium series one, you can use that to cook on the little stovetop. Like you can
Yep.
boil your water with it. And I've been using Grail for a long time. I think it's the only, I believe it's the only filter that actually purifies and will filter your water. Um, and yeah, it's cool to see what the big corporation,
Mhm.
not corporations, but the big players like Dometic and Frontrunner and what Toyota, what they're coming out with. But then you see what the mom and pop shops
Yep.
are
Yeah.
coming out with, which is always super interesting to see. Just innovation is always fascinating to me, and especially in the gear world where you're like, whoa, like
And we
that's
get and we
cool.
get the big corporations. Look, they pretty much debuted the Ineos Grenadier
Yeah,
here.
That
Uh,
thing is
a
amazing, by
bunch
the
of
way.
years, 2 years ago or whatever, in East it came out.
yeah,
In fact, it wasn't even a real truck when I saw the first one. Didn't have an engine in it, I don't
Yeah.
think. So like, and then Toyota came with the the new Forerunner platform. So there's a lot of stuff that shows up here before you're going to see it out there on the street.
And one of the cool things about that with innovation, I mean, a lot of people are upgrading and modifying. The used gear market is better than ever right
Hmm.
now. Like a lot of stuff to replace our bags will
Hmm.
probably get used. I'm just going to be honest, because all that gear that's being replaced with the latest and greatest is still really good.
Yep.
And it'll still get you out there and it'll still get the things. Like if you guys are just looking to get into it or expand into that next thing, look at a generation older or something. Look at the used market because there's so much cool stuff. Like this guy right here, he's talking about mid-sized campers.
Yeah.
Well, he drives a rig that isn't a mid-size, by the way. So I'm sure a Jeep's going to be in the market at some point.
it's kind of a mid-sized truck,
Yeah.
it's in the Tacoma family, I think.
Yeah.
Ranger maybe.
I mean, you do have the first Kimbo ever on a Jeep Gladiator, so that's kind of cool to see.
It works.
Has anybody else done it?
No,
No.
no, because they were telling people you couldn't do it.
Really?
The wheel wells wouldn't allow it or stuff like that, and I was just like, well, challenge me.
Yeah. See what happens.
Challenge accepted.
You know, when the jack stands are on there, it's fantastic. We'll drop the jack, so Lee'll take the boys to the park. I'll stay in the Kimbo and work, and then because it's so tight, it's so easy to just back right into it. And it works, and it's just that's our innovation
Right.
to make it work, and the opportunity we had, and we're like, let's do it.
So you didn't buy any gear.
I know. I mean, I meant to because I must have passed through the Moscow Moto booth by maybe 4 or 5 times. And you talk about having to hike out of somewhere. My Moscow stuff, my bags convert to backpacks and whatnot. So in fact, when I travel, I usually take a Moscow Moto bag. That's how I get on an airplane with, right? So the motorcycle gear that we didn't mention, there's a lot of motorcycle gear at these shows as well, for the people that do 2 wheels. Yeah, no, I didn't. So one of the reasons is that I've been tweaking so long that I've gotten to where I want to be, and there's like nothing left for me to buy. Really.
Yeah, that's a good place to be though, because I mean, we're very close to that. I mean, obviously, minus replacing gear. I mean, we kind of have this setup as is. Man, this is just great for us for the next year, 2 years. I saw the new Kingstar camper, love it. I wouldn't mind having an upgrade.
Sure.
Like this thing is amazing as is still. So it's like being able to walk around and really be more selective about what you do add to the kit. Because the way we look at it now, at least, and I think we're all kind of in a similar boat, like when I buy something new, I'm replacing something else. So I'm pulling something out. And that's huge because it's really easy to start getting things. And then next thing you know, you're overloaded. It's not sustainable, and you just end up putting yourself in a really bad situation. So we always go with the approach of, now that we're at the point where we have the main life support sustainable gear, that if we're going to add something, well, what are we going to replace? What are we getting rid of?
Yep. Yeah. I just bought a new pair of pants, and I threw out another. That's my rule: one in, one out.
The nice thing too is that somebody said it. They're like, everything has to have 2 uses, and I know that's not always the case necessarily,
Good
but
theory.
for so I added a small front runner box. It's so right now my geyser shower is in a Harbor Freight box, But now with that front runner box, I can put the geyser shower, I can put our sponges, our towels, everything. Then I can actually put our, because we have the Grail titanium plates and bowls, I can fit all of those in there. And then it doubles as a step to get in the box. And then it doubles as I threw out our basin that we use to do our dishes in. And so now that's also going to be our basin to do the dishes. So it's, I do my best to try to find ways that, you know, if I replace something, it's got multiple uses, or if I get something, it's got multiple uses. Because as you guys know, every inch is sacred in these rigs.
And the number one rule that I've learned over the years in overlanding, this is my number one rule: weight is the enemy.
Yeah.
It just is. No matter what rig or what kind of thing, it wears. You know, it creates more wear on your vehicle. As I was just talking about before, it limits my truck on what bridges I can go over potentially. I mean, weight is always the enemy. The lighter you can be, and the problem, of course, is just like owning a house, right? If you get a big truck like mine, you fill it. I mean, that's what we all do. So, you know, but you got to really be picky and choosy about what you're carrying.
I don't know. Were there any products that are coming out that aren't released yet that we've seen out there? I know one is a content creator. I'm really excited for the GoPro 13. You know, that'll be out soon.
Which, by the way, I went to the GoPro booth here. They had totally sold out of all their stock. All their GoPro 12s, everything was gone.
That's great.
Yeah,
so like I'm always excited for the GoPro stuff. We use it for FPV and drone work all the time, so I'm a sucker. I usually upgrade and use those. Those kind of get destroyed though. I'm rough on them.
Yeah, me too.
Part of the business, if you will, or the trade. But I'm trying to think what else is
so for
coming
me, the only booth I was like fangirling over that was going to be here was the Montana Knife Company booth. I've been rocking their knives for a long time, and so on your question of things that are coming out, so they have a new knife coming out that has the finger hole at the bottom, small, low profile, just sexy fixed blade pocket knife, as well as a new clip that I was very fortunate enough that I was able to get one. Those aren't out yet, just a new belt clip. It's pretty nifty and low profile. It kind of just fits right on your, so just kind of like this guy here. So just nice, quick, easy clip, so you get rid of the big chunky part on the sheath.
You want to hold that in front of the camera so they can see that?
Yeah, so this little clip right there, I was super stoked to get that. And so the cool thing for me, this was my highlight of the entire event, is so this knife is my Speed Goat. I got it a long time ago. To me, it's just been my pocket knife that I've been using for years. It was my go-to EDC in Mexico, so I used it nonstop. And so when I went to the booth, they saw it on my belt, and they're like, "Oh, what do you got there?" And so I pull this out, and so usually they don't look like this. This is not, and to me, this was kind of just a normal kind of, I was just like, you know, usually it's got the black coating on it. Now it's actually, it has some patina on it. And when I pulled it out, they went bananas. And they were just like, they grabbed it. They had to look at it. They actually interviewed me and talked about it. And I was like, I don't know what's going on right now. Like I'm trying to like not be obsessed with the fact that I'm talking to them just because I've been following them for so long.
Yeah, that's so cool.
And because this knife, when it came out, their drops would be a minute, and the knife was gone. And so I had the alarm set, and I was waiting. It was Wilder's third birthday, and I was in the backyard. So when I talked to them, and they were so like just stoked on my knife, which to me was just my pocket knife everyday carry. That was definitely one of my highlights. But yeah, they got a new knife coming out that's just, I tried my hardest to be like, well, what do I got to do to, can I have that one? And he's just like, no. I was like, yeah, I was gonna pay double for it just because it was just a sexy knife, and it's hard to get stuff sent to you on the road. But yeah, their knife that's coming out is super hot, as well as these clips. Yeah, sorry. I love.
You could tell he was super excited about it.
I was super excited.
Yeah, and they sent me a message asking me to come over, and I never made it over there either. I'm so bummed now.
You could have got that.
I know, because I actually got an invite to come over there. I was like, oh, now that You can get around enough.
Big time. Big time. Did you see anything coming out?
Well, shout out to one of my build partners, Shilman Seating. They debuted a new seat that has ventilation in it, so air conditioning kind of inside the seat, and they're pretty much known throughout the world as like the premier seating. They make aftermarket seats for that will fit virtually any vehicle. And I have them in. Actually, I've had them in my last 3 trucks. So
Nice. Are they air ride, like suspension too?
they're not. They're not suspension seat. Well, although you could mount them on a suspension seat box, I guess.
Yeah.
But my whole cab is air suspension anyway, so the cab moves.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, that'll be nice. I love the air cooled
Yeah,
seats that we have in
yeah.
the 550.
It tickles your butt a little bit.
It does.
Like
it does.
sitting
It's
on
great
an
in
air
the
hockey
summer.
table.
Yeah, exactly. Like sitting on an air hockey table.
Yeah, I mean, 2 things that I heard about. Well, one, I don't know if I should talk about it or whatnot, but I love the company we were talking about earlier, Vessel, VSSL. I'm a huge coffee fan. Like, love my coffee.
Ditto here.
I think all of us are coffee fans. So I was chatting with them, and they're coming out with a new kettle that's supposed to be more robust for the off-road and overland industry. That is a controlled pour. So I've gone through like 2 gooseneck kettles because they just break. And
Yeah,
get
they
destroyed.
break. Yeah.
And that's like the essential thing for pour overs, and I'm a sucker for a pour over, and they're coming out with a solution, so I am
Really?
very excited about that. No idea when it's coming out. They're still throwing around ideas, they're asking for feedback.
Just a more robust gooseneck.
We'll see. It may not be a gooseneck, honestly. It might be something else,
Yeah.
as long as you can control that pour. So I'm excited about that. And then the other thing is obviously Kingstar Campers. We partner with them for quite a while. They have a new 9-foot bed camper that they're going to be coming out with. I'm excited to get in on that project. So a little bit more room, a little bit more creature comfort, and we're trading things for that too.
Oh.
Our garage is going to get smaller. So again, new things come, other things go. So it's going to be a trade-off. We're trying to keep the weight about the same if we go that route. But looking forward to that, later this year or early next year, hopefully.
Very nice.
Lots of cool. There's a lot of cool stuff. I'm always excited about new coffee too. If you guys got any sauce
Well, that's
for some new
that's
coffee?
another thing. I mean, there was a bunch of good coffee around here too. You
And
can
lots of samples.
lots of samples.
Yeah, Andy at Beadlock Coffee, he was right at the Ironman 4x4 booth. I think it was there every morning.
Yeah.
Like, he was just giving me my
Yeah.
fix. So I was very energetic and great conversations. If you talked to me and I was excited, it was probably because of Andy and Beadlock
Yeah.
Coffee, because I was drinking it all weekend.
You need it. You need it. This show by Sunday, you need extra coffee,
Oh, man.
right?
Yeah, the social tank is running
Empty.
low on Sunday.
Yeah. I know.
Yeah, so I mean that's a good segue. What's the experience like? So a lot of people are going to come here as just watching it, checking it out for the first time. You're here with a vendor. You're here as an instructor. I'm here in the Showcase DIY booth. I'd love to hear everyone's experience, from your perspective in those different avenues of the Overland Expo.
I don't know if you guys experienced the same thing, but I was impressed by the quality of the people, particularly that come through this venue up here in the Pacific Northwest. And 2, there were a lot of newbies.
Yeah.
I love talking to newbies. Like the final on Sunday, the final day, Phil and I do a podcast, and we went around and just we could basically grab a microphone and walk around. That's kind of our tradition that we do on Sunday, and just walk around and interview people. Just short little clip, like 10, 20-second clips. We ran into so many people that are newbies here. That was like, oh, my first time at Overland Expo, my first time, and that's cool to hear, because they're super excited.
Yeah. It's very similar to that. Like, we'll have a lot of conversations with people that have no idea. We have showers, and that's what we show people on how to save water, have their showers. And it's on what you said, the amount of people that were new, and because once we're done talking about our product and stuff like that, it kind of trails off into little conversations. But I love people like, hey, is this your first time, or what are you looking for in particular? Because there's certain booths from walking around, people I know, things that I like that I'll suggest. And if they're like, hey, I'm looking for a cooking option, I'm like, hey, come back here for a second. Let me show you my scuttle and give you that whole breakdown.
Sure.
And then I send them to Jerry and Brian, or, oh, we're looking for a toilet. Well, let me show you my Insta Privy, and then I send them over there. And
Yep.
so a lot of people that were, like you said, brand new, and they're like, no, it's their first time here. And the other thing I saw was that there was a ton of Canadians
Yeah.
and a ton of people that, I mean, we had people that drove from Texas. We had people that were here from the Carolinas.
A couple Orange County, California. I had a bunch of
all the
people
way
there.
down, yeah, and that was super cool. And then it's always fun. Every now and again, you'll talk to somebody who has this really either moving story, either really cool story about what they're doing, and so there's a few of those that were those are always special moments, that I enjoy.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, very similar out in the, showcase and DIY booth, the whole spectrum. I think I saw a little bit more of both, though. We saw new people that were just coming in like, whoa, what is that thing? And then we had people that were like very much like out and about and just looking for that next big build and like trying to see what are other people doing. That's a great thing about the DIY area. As well as, again, walking around and looking at all the people in the camping sites, is you get to see what other people are doing. So we get a lot of people asking those questions. How does this work for you? We travel with 2 cats. People were just going crazy about that. How do you travel with cats? How do they stay around? Do they come back, to the camper? What do you guys do? How do you keep them fed? Where's the litter? All these questions. And it was just like sparked this whole conversation. And I mean, it was great to see because that was the whole gamut, of people that are new. And I heard so many people tell me like, gosh, I have my friend that wants to go out, but she's always hesitant to leave her animals behind.
Yep.
And they're like, well, she doesn't have an excuse now.
There you go.
Or vice versa.
Yeah.
So like, it was just cool to see that. And again, the whole gamut of, newbies, if you will, to the seasoned vets. But everyone's around looking for ideas and walking around with an open mind. And that's what I loved. I think everybody was just asking questions all the time, open mind, and, what works, what doesn't work, what would you recommend? How do you cook? How do you, I think we talked about it earlier. No one ever asked this, but they should. How do you get mail on the road?
Yeah, I had that in one of my my classes, so for sure they do ask that.
So there's a lot of good stuff, a lot of good questions asked, and I think that's just it from my experience. And I've done some of the vendor stuff with Kingstar as well, and just lots of good questions. People really looking for what's going to fit them. And I think, like you say, I always try to get down to the point of, use what you got. Figure out those limitations first. What are those must-haves? I describe it very logically. It's like make an Excel spreadsheet. Make a list of the things you absolutely have to have. Make the things that would be nice to have. Make the things you don't want to deal with. Make the things that you're not going to need but could be entertaining. Write all those down and then start looking at different builds, different items, different space, and start checking off the boxes. And you're going to find like that ideal kind of setup. And you're going to answer your own questions if you do it that way.
And always remember that every dollar you spend on gear is a dollar you don't necessarily have on the travel side of it.
Yeah.
So that's where the balance has got to be.
So true. Gas is not cheap.
No, unfortunately not.
Well, neither are tires. Well, I guess your tires are
My
cheap.
tires are cheap. And by the way, you need to talk about your jacket.
Yeah. So this is
Bought
actually
something else.
I did buy something else. Actually, Deidre bought it. So Deidre got me this really sick Overland Expo bomber jacket.
It's
So
super
genuine
cool.
leather. You see the patch there on the back. There's like a really cool motorcycle rider
Yeah.
logo
You
on
almost
the
got to show
back.
the back. 'cause
Yeah, you
the
got to
is the
show the
highlight.
back.
Is that gonna work?
Yeah, I think so. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. There you go. Yeah, we can see it.
So I mean, I've ridden motorcycles my whole life. It's probably been this is the longest time I've gone without actually owning one. It's probably been about 8-9 years now. I sold it before we moved to Colorado, thinking, oh, Colorado doesn't have a riding season. It snows there. It's cold. I moved from Arizona, mind you, so I was used to 110-degree riding days. I was mistaken. I definitely regretted selling that bike, but I was doing grad school at the time, so there was really no time to get out and ride. But now, I'm getting that itch to get back into it. So getting this bomber jacket was kind of like, okay, we're committing. We're going to get some adventure bikes or something to just throw on the rig. So as we set up base camp, we could go explore, look at trails, ride into town, have an alternative method to getting out of trouble like you kind of built yours around. And, there's a lot of great value to it. I love being on 2 wheels. There's something about it that is just very...
I tell people, like, my favorite thing about the whole truck is my motorcycle, and if I didn't love my shower and my bed so much, I would do this on 2 wheels.
Yeah. I mean, and I still I don't know how Deidre feels about this. Maybe I do it alone. Maybe she does it with me. But I'd love to do an extended, like 2, 3, 4 month trip just on a bike. A little tent, or not even a tent, a tarp and a ground mat, and just travel that way. I think there's something about that. I follow Moscow Pete,
Yeah,
Moscow Moto. Their whole crew are out there using their
they
bikes, using
use
the
them.
gear.
They use
And
them.
if you don't know who they are, go check them out. They do some of the coolest trips. Again, very inspiring. And again, just get out there and use it. There's a few guys out there, just full tank of fuel and a big old pack on their back, and they're just doing the thing. So I love to see it.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, you guys got anything else you want to chat about? We've been going for about an hour and 20 minutes now. This has been flowing, a great conversation. But I think Overland Expo PNW, a lot of great things, a lot of bad things. Low, hospital visits. But at the same time, it's been a great trip.
Well,
and
could have been worse. That's all I gotta
Oregon,
say. Sitting here with my pillow, trying to keep my arm up, and I mean, I don't think I expected at 10 o'clock this morning that I would be doing a podcast tonight.
Yeah.
So I'm doing better than I thought.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, go check out, Overland Actual, Matt, and then obviously Drive the Globe. I mean, a guy that needs no introduction on my channel.
Let's
probably.
do the giveaway.
Oh, that's
I
right.
forgot. We have a giveaway.
And it's very relative to today.
It is very relative to today.
That's right.
All right, so here's how the giveaway works. I made a post, I explained it, and then I said to enter the giveaway, you had to comment down below why you need a $300 gift card to My Medic, which thank you so much to My Medic for being a part of this and providing that gift card. That's awesome. That's going to definitely go a long way for somebody's med kit. So what we can do is I can read out the comments, and then you guys can decide who wins it. And I won't say who commented it in the event that you guys know the person. What do you guys think?
You're saying I can't put a comment now?
Yeah. Hold on. I'm typing.
Ended last night.
Dang it.
Ended last night at midnight.
I'm reevaluating my med kit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that sounds great. And I think Mike has the most experience. So I'm sure he's going to have some great insight on these
Sound
comments.
like a good idea.
Well, let's see. Yeah, read the comments.
So let's
So we
go
got to decide what comment we like the most.
the comment that we like the most, that for whatever reason
Okay.
is the one that wins. I won't have any say in which comment.
We're gonna have to come
it
to
is.
a unanimous,
Yeah,
though. I think.
consensus on this.
Yeah.
So, all right. The first comment is, I would just love to have one. Geez, now I have to read. I would just love to have one. I guess it isn't something I've realized would be needed in the vehicles. So, another preface is that I built a kit, and that's what My Medic kind of attached it to. I built a vehicle kit, and that's kind of what I said. This is my vehicle kit. It was about $300.
Yeah.
I handpicked everything, and then.
Yep.
So this is why the vehicle comment.
Yep. And that's the bag you brought out today?
No, that's my MyFact Pro, and then the vehicle kit is just behind my head in the vehicle. So that's more of a
Actually, mention that for a second, because that's another thing people don't think about. When you have your med kit, where do you put it, and how many should you have?
So for us, if you have a separate, living area, like, you have your cab of your truck, and then you go into your area. Same with you, same with us. So the med kit that I have in the camper, that is the, family everything med kit. So that's a bigger kit, as you saw. It has everything from boo-boo scrapes to controlled bleeding to airway to sprains to hydration, all that stuff. That's my all-around med kit. It's in the back of the camper. It's in, so again, with My Medic, they make a really good quick release system. So I have it mounted. You hit the clip, and then it just comes off the Velcro, and the mounting piece stays, and there's a back strap so you can kind of take it on your shoulder. In the vehicle, what I created was my vehicle med kit. So that vehicle kit is not for if Wilder gets a cut or if little things. So in that kit, it's going to be, I have some airway things. So in the event, MPAs, so keep an airway open, stuff like that. I have bleed control, so quick clot, tourniquet, what else do I have in there? Certain splints. There's eye guards. Everything that is going to come from a vehicle
An
accident. And
accident.
then
Yeah.
on top of that, I add simple things that a lot of people don't think about. So I have an extra set of sunglasses that's always there. I don't wear them. That is in the event of an accident. And next to those, I have a CRKT knife that has a window punch and a seatbelt cutter.
Mm,
Along with
that's
that,
a
I
great
have
idea.
Yeah.
webbing that I put together myself. So webbing's really good if you have to brace something up, if you have to create a quick sling to drag somebody out of it. Some shackles on there. So those are the three things that I added on top of it. That's always there. If you've ever tried to break a window, doing this is
Yeah.
not going to do it.
Doesn't work well.
Having that quick window punch is super important to have. And if you're going to somebody's vehicle who's unresponsive and their door's locked, you need to get in that window quick. And the glasses is if you're going to somebody's window and you're going to break their window or your own, having just a normal pair of glasses is super important because
Yeah.
you're useless if you get a piece of glass in
Yep.
your eye.
Yep.
So that's my vehicle kit. I had to replace it because my old one had some pieces in it that were getting expired and stuff like that. So that's, again, you got to go through your kits. You got to make sure things are still valid. You got to make sure no packaging's torn and stuff like that. So that's where that came from. That one sits directly behind my head. So in the event of an emergency,
Quick
I
grab.
can reach it.
Yeah.
Aaliyah can reach it. Wilder, who sits behind me, my 6-year-old, he can even reach it. And if I'm ripping out of the car because I come upon an accident, I can grab it quick and then go, do my thing. So that's where this kind of all was
Yep.
birthed.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely, totally agree with
Um,
all
Yeah,
of
it's
that.
good for everybody to hear that.
Absolutely. If you have a setup where you're in a rooftop tent and it's deployable, or you're in a class C, let's say, then maybe you can have your kits in the same spot.
Yeah.
But if you understand vehicle collisions and stuff
Right.
like that, and you have that kit that is just for that vehicular accident, which we're all in vehicles.
Yep.
So it's such a huge thing. And with my medic, what I love is their accessibility, how easy it is to refill stuff. They got a little barcode on the packages, and it's the simplicity is there. And not all first aid kits are the same.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've seen plenty of people that have the little tin cans.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
Cabela's,
Yeah.
like
Yeah. You
hiking.
should have
Yeah,
a good
yeah.
one.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
110%.
Yeah.
And nowadays with YouTube is you can get a lot of. I should watch what I say, but you can learn a lot without having to go, to a physical
True.
course. My medic offers some of that stuff online,
Mhm.
so definitely good to get educated and make sure you know how to use what you're using. Okay, so
Okay, read them.
comment number 2. Keep it in my diaper bag for my little one or anyone I need. And then we have, I would keep it in my vehicle so it's close by in the event something happens, but then I'm prepared for those scenarios. Here's a longer one. Well, I just started getting back into backcountry camping, crownland camping with my vehicle, and I got a rooftop tent to go into the backwoods with, and my metal kit is good enough for when I was hiking, backpacking. But now that I'm going to be doing more than just backpacking, it would really help. And now that I'm bringing my kid along with me as well, trying to get her used to doing it, to learn on how to survive in the wilderness and show her the things that you need to get to be safe. That's a good one. I would get a first aid kit and gift it to someone that does not have one. And another one, I'd like to stock my bag. So that's an option with my medic, is you can pick and choose certain things to upgrade your kit.
Mhm.
And then I would love to win, capital letters, so I can get the recon kit in red, plus a few extra items like the spraying kit. We spend lots of time off the grid, sometimes in small groups, other times 30 to 50 rigs. Jeez Louise.
Wow.
And having a super solid first aid kit could go a long, that's how they spelled it, way helping us and others on the trail. Another one, I would love to use it to get another kit for my other vehicle. I always have to remember to move it between the two for all of my trips and weekend trail rides. Had to use it 3 times in one day when other people crashed and didn't have anything. Such a necessity. I would set myself up for success for my trip to Alaska. I've been eyeing the MyMedic official setups for a while now, and this would be a perfect prize and timing for my upcoming trip. Clap, clap, pray hands.
I think that's high five. Actually.
Oh, yeah.
I know. I used to think that too.
I would be updating my $10 medic kit I bought 25 plus years ago. That's got some dust. Also, having something to help others on the trail is always good. And then we have Truck Camper Adventure, just 3 claps. So thank you, Truck Camper Adventure. We have an upcoming 3-week trip. This will be a great addition. A new updated kit will be great. 100% logo. And our last one, what an amazing giveaway. I definitely use the $300. Hook us up with the MyFac Large. That thing is amazing. I'd also probably order some refills for other things to add into the pack. Thanks for this giveaway. I'd love to have such an amazing first aid kit. I definitely have this on me for all my camping adventures and outdoor adventures.
Oh, wow. Those are some great comments. I think
Yeah.
my medic needs to step up and throw some swag at some
I
of these
know,
guys
right?
directly. It's
Wow.
going to be hard to pick.
I liked the Canadian one.
What's the Canadian one?
The one that mentioned about going on crown land with the daughter, I think.
Okay, let's find that one.
Yep. Teaching the.
I assume it's Canadian based on what it said.
I just started getting back into backcountry camping,
Yeah.
crown land camping
That
with my
one.
vehicle, and I got a rooftop tent, and show her things that would need to be safe.
I love that because there's the education aspect and it's passing it on to the next
That's
generation.
what I liked.
I think the gentleman that also said he'd use it to gift it to someone else. Like, there's something to be said about understanding the value of good first aid.
I like
and
that
sharing
too. Yeah.
And then the other one that I really liked was the gentleman or I assume gentleman or lady that mentioned they had to use their kit multiple times in one day
And nobody
ran
had
out.
one.
And I think that's something that we never talk about is if you're in an accident, it's usually not one vehicle or one person, it's multiple.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of that is having enough
Yep.
kit
Yep.
to support multiple injuries.
And you got to remember to replenish your stuff when you use it.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are my top 3.
Yeah,
so.
I would agree with you. So I'm not sure how we're going to pick those.
You got to pick one.
We got to pick one. Okay, well, I narrowed it down to 3 for you. He's like, no, I narrowed it down to 1.
Give me flip.
Flip a scuttle.
Yeah, let's do a flip.
So what's the flip though?
In order, those 3. 1, 2, 3. We got it's got to be one of those 3,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So well, let's do flip something. What do we got? And we'll throw my phone up.
Here we got this.
What's that?
We got this little square tin.
Okay, so what you do is throw it up in whatever way it's the top of it is facing, whether it's your. So we'll go. Your truck's 1, my truck's 2, your truck's 3.
Perfect.
Okay,
Just
so
flip it around and
whichever way this 8 is
yes,
facing.
faces. It's 1, 2, or 3.
So
Yeah.
which one's 1, 2, or 3?
So 1 is going to be teaching his daughter.
Yep.
2 is going to be sharing and gifting.
Yep.
And then 3 is going to to be having
Yep.
a big enough
For
kit for multiple
People
injuries.
and yeah.
Okay, so
I like that.
1 is going to be J.G. Wojcicki.
Okay.
Tough one. And then what was number 2? The gifting it?
Gifting
Yep.
it, yes.
Gifting it. Let's see.
And we are not condoning or supporting the use of
Gift it to somebody.
this
So,
item. We're just
I don't know
happen
what
to
this item is. I've never seen this. I
Just flipping it.
obviously the camper left it behind. 2 is going to be outside the norm.
Okay.
And then 3 was, which one was 3?
Multiple uses in a day, right?
Yeah, it was a
Okay, the
big
3
red.
times.
Yeah.
That will be Poppy the Jeep triggered TRD.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So
There we go.
I'm 1.
1,
Mike's
orange is
2,
2,
and then
and the
yours
King Star is 3.
You're 3. Okay. Okay.
It is windy outside too. So this
All of
could
a
be
sudden it's getting
interesting.
cold.
All of a sudden it's getting cold.
See if this will work.
Yeah.
And it's time for me to take my my medicine.
All right.
Hold on. Let me help out here. So he's
There
doing
you
the
go.
thing.
Okay,
Let's see it.
One.
It's one.
It is one.
Yep.
Yates pointing.
One is the winner.
There's not even a question about that one.
Pointing right at the Jeep.
That's awesome.
So we have a winner.
We have a winner. The winner is JGWOJCICKI. I don't know how to pronounce
Nice.
that.
And that was your first pick.
It was.
So
That was
Go figure.
it was meant to
Maybe
be.
it's returning the karma for my act.
Well, I mean, I think what he's doing is he's future-proofing it. So when if anything ever happened to him, his daughter would be around and know how to treat him. So
That's right.
exactly what you're looking at.
Exactly.
So you're right. His profile picture has a Canadian flag in it.
See, it was a good guess.
Nice.
So that was a perfect guess.
Awesome. So are you gonna reach out to them?
Yeah.
Let them know right now.
That's let's see if they answer their the call.
The Instagram. I forget you can call people on Instagram.
Yeah.
I should do that with
I know.
Starlink and
I know.
Wi-Fi. So
It's happened to me before, and I'm always freaked out. I'm like, well, what is this?
So let's go this way.
Got to put the turtle away too. It's getting cold.
It is.
Here, me and my teacher. Which, by the way, the weather here in Redmond this week has been fantastic. Fantastic. Days been sunny and beautiful, and nighttime has been great sleeping weather.
Yeah, and this is really some of the windiest it's been lately. It hasn't been too bad.
No, not really.
Okay, so it won't. Maybe it's because it's the Wi-Fi.
You may have to send him an email.
Or if he's watching, we could clip this out and post it on your channel, your Instagram, and go from there. So
Okay,
yeah.
I took it off the Wi-Fi and now it's calling. I also only have like 4%.
We're really pushing the deadline here. I'm surprised our computers are actually
I
still
know.
on.
I'm super stoked that again the sprinklers are all on.
I know, but not our.
They're taking care of us.
I was worried about that. I was like, oh boy.
And nobody came to say anything today. Did you guys talk to anybody?
Oh, I did. I had security came by, just checked if we're going to be around another day. No problems. Say till tomorrow. I would say as long as you want. That's definitely not what they said. They said say till tomorrow.
Yeah.
We'll figure out where we're going to go camp for the rest of the week.
Yep.
Okay, well he's not answering, so
All right. Well, post it up,
Yep. That's
and
awesome.
congratulations.
To Maze Fockers is so either his name is Fockers or so Maze Fockers or play on words. Who knows? But congrats, man! You won the $300 gift card.
God, congratulations.
And he's
Awesome.
Canadian. That's an American gift card.
That's right. $300 American dollars.
Money. Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for joining us.
Yeah.
Again, go check out everyone's respective channels. I think you're everywhere at Drive the Globe, right?
Yep, everywhere.
Tickets. Instagram, YouTube, Facebook.
Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, Overland Actual, and TikTok. But I'm still trying to figure that one out.
Awesome. And if you're here, you're probably seeing this on YouTube, Facebook as well, and Instagram, trying to do TikTok. And from your advice, maybe Patreon in the future. Who knows? We'll see.
Let's
But
do it.
thanks everyone for being here. Thanks. Hope you enjoyed that. Reach out with any questions to any of us. We love talking to the community and giving back. And we'll catch you guys in the next one. Now let's see if we can figure out how to turn off this live.
Yeah, because otherwise it's going to be live all night with us. You'll hear me moaning with my wrist.
Watch this. How I do it. I bet you that worked.
No. Now it did. Edit in studio. Perfect. Okay. I think we're done.
Cool, man. That was fun.